Welcome to today's event and the kickoff, actually, to International Women's Day. And it's 2023. And what are the issues happening out there today that women are dealing with on a daily basis? What's the global picture? And if we haven't already met, I'm Laurel Elian, and I am coming to you from the center of Canada. And this issue has been big in my heart for many years. And it's really interesting to me listening to how women are managing their business lives and how that corresponds to their personal lives. And we have great impact in the world. And how are we using the awareness and skills that we have based on the work experience, the everyday life experience we have? What are the issues that women are still dealing with today? And I want to share with you the focus for International Women's Day this year based on the theme of the UN. And the UN is celebrating the digital innovation and technology for gender equality, that 22% of artificial intelligence is made up of the female population and the workers globally. And 44% of the global analysis of artificial intelligence systems across industries around the world show that there's biased against gender equality. And a survey of women journalists from 125 countries found that 73% of those journalists who were women suffered online violence in the course of their work. And how does this affect us in our everyday life? How do you experience your world as you leave your doorway or go out and spend time with your family out in public or in the workplace? What is it that you're experiencing? Does this correspond to your everyday life? From the earliest days of computing to the present day of virtual reality and artificial intelligence, women have made untold contributions to the digital world in which we are increasingly living in. These accomplishments have been against many odds in a field that has historically welcomed or not welcomed nor appreciated them. So today, a persistent gender gap in digital access keeps women from unlocking technology's full potential. The underrepresentation in the STEM education and careers remains a major barrier to the participation of women in tech design and governance. And I believe that this really is changing as women step into their entrepreneurial path. And today I have a really special guest, someone that I've known for some time, and we've had a lot of tremendous insightful discussions as we have worked together. We collaborated, and I want to introduce all of you to someone who I consider her a colleague, but a girlfriend. And I'm talking about the goddess, May-Synnøve Hansen, who's coming in from Norway today. And welcome, goddess. And you've spent your career really started off in the corporate world. And I'm going to just let you do a brief background on where you've been in your career and how that brings you to where you are today in the work that you do. Welcome from Norway.
Thank you so much, Laurel. It's been a pleasure to say yes to this meeting, and the Women's Day is so important to put on the map, because people are like, nah, women do have rights today in modern society, so it doesn't matter that much. But I want to take that back and really see, oh yeah, we matter. We are actually the most important thing to focus on in this environment. So back when I started in my teenage years, when I started high school and so on, I actually went the creative way into painting, designing, and did a lot of creative stuff. And then I got my child, and I totally switched off to go from that creativity process into corporate focus and IT business. So for me, it was the switch when I needed to grow up and have a real job. Back then, it's 25 years ago. Now, of course, it's a long time since I did that. But the shift between people don't succeed with creativity work. You need to be a corporate person or something like that. So that was my mindset, and it was the mindset around people. So living in Norway, I'm actually quite privileged when it comes to men and women equality and having the same pay for the same work and so on. And in Norway, it's actually pioneer in this work, but it's still a lot of work to do here. But I would say that going into IT and actually being in an American company in Norway, working with IT man, and also have technical skills from back then. It's not relevant today, but back then it was like I could actually set up internet and route it and fix it and connect the people with this and do the configuration and stuff like that. So it's weird to think about it right now, but back then, going into that male dominated environment, you probably want me to say something like, oh, it was so hard to be a woman. No, in Norway, it was actually good to be a woman in that IT management environment, because they welcome women, and women are in a way more nurturing and more supporting, and in collaboration we are better in that. So being a modern day leader is actually all about the quality women have as a natural a part of themselves. So women are actually, if they just have the courage to value themselves in a way, it's so much easier for a man to easily value yourself, like value you. So yeah,
I love what you just said. I love what you just said. What a great point. And Norway has had a woman prime minister for some time too. So that, like, do you want to share about that a little bit? Because I remember in one conversation with you, it was like it was such a comfortable thing, that the way that you responded to, well, we've had a woman prime minister for years, and I believe that really makes a huge difference in how a country responds to their issues, and exactly what you're talking about. It's being a woman in Norway is a really empowered place to be.
Yeah, we had. I just want to let a clarity around that prime minister, because we have at least two prime ministers that are women throughout the history, and those women were actually more like the Iron Lady of the UK. It was more like they have that almost dominatrix present and masculinity. So the men were afraid to just try to interfere with them. so understanding that part, that and that is also something really important to understand. The shift in women behavior, the shift in women leadership and men leadership and so on. Since we are in a masculine world, and we have been in that masculine world for over 400 years now, and we are shifting into that other type of leadership. So of course, that women that wanted to succeed in that old way of leading, they needed to have that masculinity inside of themselves. Of course, they were women, they had kids, and they had families and so on, and had femininity in them. Of course they had. But to succeed in the old way to think about it, you need to be like the man, or even be more a man. But the change is different now. So it's a big mental and spiritual shift happening all over the globe in how to behave as a woman, as a leader. So taking out that femininity in the leadership is totally changing. So what I'm wanting to see is actually the next female that will be a leading figure in Norway or in another country, in your country, for example. Are they able to transform that masculinity into more a feminine way of being? So, and we have a lot of leaders. We are actually a program in Norway going on the television about powerful women leaders in different type of sectors, like from the bloggers into the game changer in IT. So we have a lot of different category of women that are role model for us.
Well, I love what you're saying, and it's so true, and really, like those earlier women making that, stepping into that role. It's also why we have so many women that have stepped into that role in their lives, and the illness that came forward, that an example, heart disease, how that used to be a leading man's disease, has now become the #1 killer, pardon me, of women as far as disease goes, because we have, donned the business suit and the briefcase and kind of the tough exterior, and have become more masculine in our behaviors, emulating or modeling that masculine role, when we're seeing that we don't have to be that. It still comes back to who we are as a human being, and what do we want to see in the world, balancing that masculine and feminine. And men, I believe, I often hear in events, where are the men? Well, there's a huge transition that's happening there. I believe that men want to be there. Men are stepping into it, and they're going through this transition. It has nothing to do with, taking away their masculinity. It's all about balancing. And that's something that I believe a lot more discussions could happen around, the difference between a matriarchal and patriarchal society. It's not about emasculating anybody or making men weak. It's about the masculine and the feminine coming together and having compassion and using the intelligence, especially in this digital age that we're moving into. I believe that what we're seeing, a lot of the reality world stuff that is false, that people are struggling with how they are supposed to be. So there's really interesting dynamics at play. So I love what you've said. It just really sparks a lot of the ideas around what people are dealing with today. So your experience moving into corporate world, and then you're not in the corporate world now. So would you share about how that looks?
Yeah. Back when I went to business school, and I took every single job I could ever take to just get something on my CV and get that experience, because most people starting their career is like, oh, we want to have 2 or 3 year of experience before you can actually apply to a job. So I was like, oh, I just went out there and did everything I could do. And I learned a lot of the dynamic between working with women and working with men is so different. So the shift from when I finally come to corporate and had that high paying job, it was only men, almost only men around me. And working with them was actually an amazing experience because they are trained in Norway to behave and actually value the woman. And the interesting thing is because they are shifting into more feminine way to be. And when I went into from corporate into more like entrepreneurial, starting my own firm and so on, it was almost only women. And the shift from being a part of the team, a part of the family of the corporate, and going into you need to fend for yourself, and other women just want to steal something from you, or you. It's actually the opposite. My experience in that, and they want to steal from you, or they want to have everything you have so they can use it in their own business. And I think that is a shadow aspect of the masculine world we are actually living in. Because when you are going into your own business, of course, you need to have the mindset from an employee into a business owner. You like most people need to have that, and most people don't have that understanding. But the really important thing is that aspect between women. When they are in the masculine world, they act as if everybody is competition instead of going back together and form this community of authentic willingness to collaborate. And I think we both have experience of that. Like you also have
too many stories to tell.
Yeah.
And
so not necessarily we always think about, oh, men is so bad and they don't want us in the environment, but that is bullshit. But it's more that women need to be trained in a good way, go from the shadow aspect of understanding who they are, their value, and why they are here, so they can actually step into that leadership as a woman, understanding that you are the business owner and you need other people to collaborate. Because that is the shift also, because we are told we can do it all ourselves, and we actually do. So that's also
sadly.
Yeah. And it was so interesting. The other day, I saw this man video. That it was a coach, manly coach, and he was a coach for men. I meant, and he talked about you need to be the alpha guy, and then you need to be that submissive part in that woman's life. You need to have both and understand when are you going to lead and when are you going to shut the F up and just follow the woman.
Well, you bring up the story. I'm sorry there.
Yeah.
You bring up such a great point, because when you say trained, I hear there's a code of ethics. There's an etiquette that goes on, that you know, and so many parts of the world, and I like you, I work with virtual assistants too, and I can tell in how, you know, where they're in other countries and how they address me. There's sometimes more formality and sometimes very condescending things, like calling me dear when I'm the one employing them.
Yeah.
And I have some virtual assistants who are kind of afraid of me, because it's just like, I get that really clear. It's like, that's so condescending to call me dear, because that lowers my role in our relationship, but actually I pay you. And so what I hear you saying is that there's this maybe well, it's obviously not unwritten. It's a belief and something that's been spoken about as far as this is the acceptable behavior. This is what goes on here. So and that's what I've heard you talk about. Could you just kind of talk about a little bit more about how that looks in Norway with men respecting that partnership, that level playing field with women? Is there a training that they actually go through? Is there are there the laws are written, or how does
Yeah,
that work?
in a way, we have this norm in society because in the 70s we had this uprooting from that traditional way of being, and you have these women realizing themselves. So the women from the 70s that had babies and so on was indoctrinating almost the boys to behave in a certain way, so they will be more like a servant to the woman. And of course it was a higher divorce rate because women were breaking out of that, and it was good. But then you have the backside, the shadows aspect of that is that men don't necessarily dare to take the leadership role, because if they do, they will be smacked down by their mothers or the girls. So of course you have the shadow aspect of that, is that you have a lack of masculinity, almost like the alpha male is out of balance in Norway. So that is the shadow aspect of we being the pioneer in this work. Because when you are on one side and you try to come to the balance, you must go to the other side to do the shitty things to do that then, and then you have the sort of balancing act afterwards. So this is actually the time to start balancing that, from this to that, and now we are in that balancing act and understanding that we need men like dominate or masculinity women like me. I actually want a more dominant man, or more a man that will stand up and say no to me and say why it's no. I want to protect you in a way. I want to be the man. And I talked to my neighbor the other day, and she also said, oh, I would so love to have a masculine man because I only attract the submissive man. And I said, oh, I have the same problem. But
Well,
it's up to us to actually give the space to the man and say it's okay for you to grab my hair and kiss me. Because if they actually do that without the permission or the invite, you will go to jail. So
yeah, there's
I'm
a
not sure
that's
if
a
I
lead.
answered the question, but
Well, I like the direction it's going, and it's
yeah.
really loaded with so many directions there. And what you said about I'd like the man to step in and take control, and I believe maybe what you also mean is like, and what you said was giving them room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I'm a strong woman, married for just about 30 years. And I say our marriage lasted so well because he worked away from home.
Yeah.
And it's true. Our deep work in our relationship happened when he came home. And it's about I'm married to a man who grew up in the 50s, in the 60s, and he married a flower child. And I recognize people as people. I raised girls. I was actually very afraid if I birthed a boy, because I don't know how I would be. It was a real fear for me back then.
Yeah.
And I see what my 30-year-old daughters go through with their relationships. And I see that the work I've done on me and my belief system and how I raised them has affected them, and they recognize that too. That's a
Yeah.
really important thing, because you have a daughter also, and
Yeah.
to be able to have these discussions where we don't beat down men or don't beat down other women. We're human. It's about being a compassionate human, and there is a lot of work to be done in that field, because we're kind of a minority in thinking that way.
Yeah. And an interesting thing you mentioned, that our children, my daughter is 25, and she is talking to me around, oh, mom, you said this and that when I growed up, so I believe that is how I should do things. I'm like, oh my God, no.
Because
Back
where you were.
then I was in a different place. So we actually spend a lot of communication around the belief I put into her, or the belief that she took from one sentence that I put out there, and she was listening. When I was frustrated, like I said, man, it's just something that you use. I use something like that one time, like a long time ago, and that is that it was not good. So she believed, because I was frustrated one day and just put that out, and I forgot about it, and it wasn't something I actually did or believed in, but I was just frustrated. And being so aware of when you put out your frustration, be aware that your children will listen to every single word you're saying, even though you don't know that. So the belief you put out in the workspace and home space, like that is the highest leadership you may be actually doing in your life. So understanding that you don't need to be in corporate to be a leader to other. You are a leader to your children. You are a leader to your community, and what you say and do and act as if that is what they see. So our children adapt what you say and what you do, and more what you do, of course, but yeah, just be aware of
that. It's never been more important what you just spoke about, because in our digital world, our children are who we're programming to create the future.
Absolutely.
And those first 6 years are the most crucial. And whatever's going on in our lives definitely is reflected in how they experience their world and their belief system. So you, like myself, we were both single moms, and I just, having children changed my life, gave me more purpose, a greater purpose. And having girls, to me, was like, you can do anything, but you have to go out there and do anything. I had a mantra with my girls we still laugh about today, and it still plays a role in their lives. It's about get out there and do something. I didn't allow them. It was a rule in our house. No boyfriends before you finish high school, because it's a distraction. And that might be really cruel, but it really served them well. I had one that kind of wavered on that, but there was a big difference between her and her sister, and really where they are in life today. And it's something that, it's like, how you do one thing, you do all things. So what is your purpose in life? What is it that you want to affect? Where do you want to create change? Us being the moms, we're the role models. And so how we do our lives is going to affect how our kids do their lives. So the conversations that we have. My girls have worked in male-dominated fields for several years. It's been amazing to me, because when I was coming up, it was, oh, girls don't do that. And I was still kind of close to that generation where hope you get a good husband to take care of you, because don't know what you'd be good at otherwise. Going into the beauty field, it was a job for girls who were waiting to be married, truly, when I was going in. And it was multiple decade career for me, but I also saw how the women kind of, it was men owned the businesses and women were the workers. And so there was all these dynamics inside of that. And you touch a lot on the shadow side. So I really want to bring in this conversation, because that was how we met, was, our careers going this route and then becoming the entrepreneur, and, all of the things that we do in our business to run our business. And it's very much on how what we do is who we are. And we met through human design and a training and tools that changed our lives, that gave us deeper understanding in that human dynamic aspect of our life. And would you like to share about how human design has, just because it's the way you work with the blueprint of people in your business? And I've done a similar before finding this new process, where understanding people through, the moment that they're born. And you speak about the 400-year time zone that we've been in and how it's changing. And that all comes back to how our world is evolving. And so I'll just turn it over to you and ask you how you work with people because of, understanding their shadow side and who we are.
Yeah. Also, the blueprint for me is more like an understanding of who you are. So when you understand who you are and you understand why you are here, your purpose in life, you can then take focused and correct choices for yourself, not based on other people around you, your family, your spouse, or your boyfriend, or whatever. It's all about you, understanding you, and be true to yourself. So my way of dealing with myself is to go into my integrity. And as long as I can remember being born as a little baby, a little goddess, and coming into the world believing everybody is fantastic and it's all light and love and so on, and meeting the hardship of life, you need to change the strategy from being this loving child into, I need to make sure that my caretakers take good care of me until I can take care of myself. So I went into that pleasing strategy, like I need to make them like me. So I went against my integrity, because it wasn't like I wanted to do stuff I wanted to do. So that's how I come into my shadow side, not being able to live in integrity, because if I did, I will be left out to die, in that sense of being in a tribe. And if I don't do the stuff that the grown-ups want me to do, I will not have what I need to grow up. And I was too young to take care of myself. So the understanding that this is an unconscious way every children in this world do. Even my daughter did that. Even though I was quite aware and conscious, she also took that route. We do that as children. So understanding that the way we act and behave as children, if we don't change that strategy when we grow up, we can actually have disease, we can have trouble in our relationship, we can have trouble in every aspect of life. You can even go and start your own business, but you will never succeed because of your strategy rooted in your childhood. So that's how the human design, or gene key, as I also use, had that ability for me as a mentor. I can guide you from, this is who you were meant to be. So just take you as an example, Laurel. You were meant to be a queen, and just working with that self-love and working with that self-empowerment to actually say, yeah, I am a queen. just like I say, I'm a goddess. It takes a long process because societies say to us, who do you think you are?
Mm,
That is the
right.
conditioning that we need to get rid of. And we need to have permission to step inside of the gift we have. So me and you, when we work together, for me, meeting you and understanding the human design is how, and your own blueprint, is how I can let go of trying to be the queen, because that is your role.
Yeah.
So letting you be and shine, it's okay because I have other places to shine. And that, I think that is the biggest shift for me. And that is what women and men need, this blueprint of their own, to understand, oh, I'm not supposed to be the leader, or I'm supposed to be the leader, and this is how I do it, or this is not how I do it, because that is my shadow aspect of it. So see your own shadow, embracing and loving your shadow so you can implement it and understand it. That's the key to reaching your gift and your highest expression. So, and that is what we have been collaborating on for over a year now,
Right.
and working with each other every week on just deconditioning ourselves and stepping into the gift we are here to bring the world.
Well, you're exactly right, because each generation has their own set of challenges and behaviors. You know, the baby boomers, the millennials, the Y, the Z, the X's. You can definitely see that. Once I started understanding millennials through business, I understood my daughters, and
Yeah.
I did. Previous to that, it was, and you're right. The human or part of me, the soul blueprint of someone. Why are you here? What the other side of it is why does this stuff keep happening to me? So the patterns in your life, and the genetic aspect of it is actually like more like 1%, but people will put to the conditions in their life, the illness, the disease, a greater amount of actually sloughing off responsibility for their actions, which when you say the shadow, there's so much of our past generations that have, ignored the shadow. It's like, don't really want to go there. But that's the biggest change that's happening in our world, our global shift, this step into spirituality, which is, yes, I have all this stuff about me, the shadow. And when we look at that and learn from that, that's how we move forward, because we're changing the pattern literally at a cellular level for the future generations. And that's what we see in our own children. So you're right. We came together through business, looking at how can we create this, and what is it and that's the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur on this planet today, is that you can take what it is that you're passionate about and turn it into how you create change, how you live your life. And for us, it was all about the partnerships. How do people work together? Why doesn't it work out? And we've delved deep into the understanding of human behavior just in ourselves. And it's been so profound. I can say to my husband, and I have, the goddess understands and knows me better than you, who we've lived together for just about 30 years. And it's true, we'll accept things or see things in other people, but we don't do anything to create change in our own life and just by that act, we accept behavior that is not conducive to our well-being. And you said the example of the queen. Well, I've been trained to be a people pleaser my whole life. And so stepping into that role, I have that in me. I know I have that in me. I'm very commanding, but then there's this other part where I can be just so wimpy, and it really makes me mad about myself. And how do I change that? For the most part, it's just don't put myself there.
Mm.
And for young, for anybody today, especially women, it's don't put yourself in this situation, but go deeper into the understanding of self to discover what you're here to do, how to do it. And that's what you and I do at a very high level. It's not easy work. That's why not a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
People talk about how, oh, I want to transform, I want to change, I want to be a better, bigger version of myself. But it's going into the trenches of your soul, and can be a dark place. But we have to go through that to get to that other level that we're searching for. So what would you say to women today in this week of International Women's Day? What can they do to best empower themselves to be part of that change that we're all talking about, wanting to experience? What are your words, Goddess?
Oh, I have one word and I can elaborate on that. And if you as a woman can do your own self-love, like really go into what does self-love mean to you? Because the moment you make that as focus, as your agenda in everyday life, men will treat you amazingly. You will treat you amazingly. And that is an energy that puts out there. Just being able to love yourself in that way that, oh no, I don't want to be meeting this person today. And just say no, that's also integrity. Because when you are out there and you have friends, you have colleagues, and you need to be talking to them, or you want to be talking to them, as an entrepreneurial person, feel how it feels to be working with that person. And if that doesn't feel good, don't do it. And that is a part of doing a self-love piece. Taking the time to take care of yourself is a self-love piece. And I think that is just having the ability to go into yourself and find out who you are is self-love. So that's why I say yes to things right now, to do stuff out there, because somebody needs to role model this. Somebody needs to say it's okay to say yes to yourself and no to the other one. And that is exactly what I did for so many years. I was so unfaithful to myself because I was trained to be faithful to everybody else. And that is the opposite of self-love. So embracing who you are and start working as the possibility that you are a queen, or you are a goddess, or you are a leader, or you're meant to be the one that is this amazing mother, or you want to be amazing in your sport, or do your dance, or do your creativity, or just be you. And that is also the blueprint talks about who you are. You are your business. And that is the only purpose, and that is the only focus you should have. And that is revealed in the blueprint.
I agree with you. Your body is your business. I always say that. And in this expansive time of artificial intelligence and this digital world that we live in, we have a lot of conflicting messages, and the self-care couldn't be more important. Take time away from the phone, from the computer, from being online daily. It's important daily, because we literally give away of ourselves, our valuable time, to the attention of stuff that really doesn't pertain to us. And we lose the perception of who we are, or it gets tainted watching all of this other stuff out there. And it's like being on a super highway when people get in their vehicles and they drive at speeds that they wouldn't normally behave that way if they were out walking. Same with the stuff you see on on social media and that people say things and do things that they wouldn't normally if they were face to face with you. So don't listen to what other people say as what influences how your body looks, how your life looks, what your purchases are. And I believe that the last few years has really brought that front and center for many people. We're seeing so many changes come out of that isolation time because, geez, do I really need to buy that? Or there's the opposite where it's like buying so much online, checking out to see what everybody else has. What is it that you require? And that's what I really hear from your message. And the other really most important thing is you can only grow to the extent that you know how to grow. So we should all have coaches and someone to guide us to that next step. And that's the level where you and I are taking people to that next step through the importance, number one, of self-care and what that looks like. And it's not just go to the spa. It's the really go in deep, discover who you are, which will reveal to you what your purpose is in this life. So thank you so much, girlfriend, goddess, May-Synnøve Hansen, for joining me today and sharing your wisdom. And thank you to everyone who's watching. And I hope you've received the gifts and the knowledge that the goddess has brought to today. And thank you so much. We'll see you really soon.
Thank you.